I'm Jason Bates, Academic Officer at Gahanna Lincoln High School, and I'm honored to be here tonight to share some information with you regarding the CCP program here at Gahanna Lincoln High School. I'm joined tonight by Mrs. Melissa Monning, one of our incredible school counselors, who helps oversee the CCP program here at Gahanna Lincoln High School. We're happy that you've joined us tonight to learn more about the College Credit Plus program and what it looks like at Gahanna Lincoln High School. Before I get started, I just wanted to remind everyone to please mute your microphone for this portion of the presentation. As we progress through it, if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. Mrs. Monning will work to answer them, but at the end, we will open it up for questions and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. If we can't get through them in this hour, feel free to reach out to either one of us or your son or daughter's school counselor, and we will be happy to answer questions as they come up. All right, so if you joined the first hour of the presentation, you probably heard most of this, but to begin, I just want to reiterate that College Credit Plus entails, or is commonly referred to as CCP. It's Ohio's dual enrollment program. It provides students in grades 7 through 12 the opportunity to earn college and high school credits at the same time. Students are able to take courses from Ohio's colleges, universities, as well as select courses offered at Gahanna Lincoln High School through Columbus State Community College as part of the CCP program. So the purpose of the CCP program is to expand students' career readiness and post-secondary success while providing a variety of options to college-ready students at no or minimal cost to students and families. So the first hour, again, was the general CCP information that was presented by our local college and university partners. The second portion tonight, we're going to speak specifically to what the process looks like here at Gahanna Lincoln High School. This year, it looks a little bit different based on some state requirements and state law changes, and also the way in which we've structured the application and the checklist that every student must complete. So to start off, the requirements for the CCP, the checklist, which is what we've used in the past, we've transitioned to a Google Form. And this Google Form will include several different pieces that I'll run through here. But I just first want to start with some of the information that has been shared previously. So in order for students to express interest to be part of the CCP program, they first must complete the intent to participate. So that's every college, you have to complete that intent to participate. The colleges and the state legislature says by April 1st. So that's the date that we adhere to. However, we do know that there are extenuating circumstances and situations change. So if that date is not an option, or if you cannot meet that date, please speak with your school counselor. The next step, and this is for every student, is to apply to the college for which you're interested in taking CCP coursework. The new portion is the permission slip, and this is something that, again, was reiterated in the first hour, and that's something that every student who is interested in taking CCP courses must complete. And then lastly, work with your school counselor to register for courses at the specific college or institution which you're taking the courses. Approximately, I would say 90 to 95% of students at Gahanna Lincoln High School who take advantage of the CCP program do so through Columbus State, in large part because we have several teachers in the building who meet the qualifications to serve as the professor's sort of identified teacher based on their academic and degree experience. So we have several Comp 1 sections, as well as some Composition 2 sections. We also offer some political science courses. Personal finance and supply chain management are also courses that we offer. This is all dependent on student requests. So if you're interested in taking those classes, it's going to be important that you complete these steps here, but then follow up with your school counselor to make sure that they are put on Infinite Campus within your course requests, because that's not something that a student is able to do on their own. I'm going to take some time now to look through what the form looks like. Again, this is new this year, so it's not anything that any student has done. there are certain portions to the form. So as I progress through this, I'm not going to be able to progress to the next screen based on the requirement of inputting certain information. So the first screen here, you can see it's going to ask students to input their name, some personal information, and then to complete the intent to participate form. So you're going to have to click on the link here. You can't click on the picture. Click on the link and it'll pull up the form here. Most of these PDF forms allow for self-populating. You can put the information directly in, type it directly into the form. We're still waiting on the 22-23 application. However, we've been told it will not change. So until we update it, using the 21-22 form works perfectly fine. So the first step is to complete the intent to participate. The next step is to apply to the college for which you're interested in taking courses. Again, this is going to depend on the college in and of itself and their requirements around the application process. At Columbus State, it's pretty straightforward. This link is on the form. Students need to apply. And once they apply, it takes typically 2 to 3 days, and they will receive an email with their Cougar ID. That is part of what will be needed on the next page in the form. So this is the edit view. It's not the, no, sorry, one right here. So you can see this is the beginning. This is the first page. After students put in the first page, this is what I was referencing. And that last screen here with applying through Columbus State. And then you can see here, there are questions about where you plan to take your courses at Gahanna, online through Columbus State, in person, or perhaps both. And then these are the course options that we have in the past been able to offer based on the teachers in the building, our high school teachers, and their degrees and past academic experiences that we're able to offer. The next is the permission slip. And the permission slip is, again, like I mentioned, new. The permission slip, this is the link that will need to be completed. Again, it's fillable. Each of the entries are fillable. So this needs to be completed. An electronic signature or just typing the name will suffice, at least for Columbus State, we've been told. So this needs to be completed and then saved to the computer and then uploaded through this form. The next requirement, also part of Columbus State requirement, is a student questionnaire. Again, typing in the responses here and an electronic signature would be sufficient for this as well. At least as of now, Columbus State may change that, but when we just spoke with them today, they said that that was perfectly fine. The last step in the process, this is not required to submit the form. All other components are required. So it's going to be important for students and parents, if you're helping students, to ensure that each of these components are completed in a timely manner, but also having everything ready to go. We're going to complete, or I'm sorry, we're going to submit all of these links on the academics webpage as well as the school counseling webpage. To ensure that students have access to each of these forms so that they can complete each of the forms and submit it all at once. Because as I mentioned, students aren't going to be able to progress to the next screen in the actual form until they've uploaded the required piece and made the correct selections throughout. The last step that I mentioned is not required. This is the registration form. Again, this is specific to Columbus State, but every college has a similar process. So after a student has applied and been accepted, met with their school counselor and completed the intent to participate, the permission slip, the questionnaire, they then are ready to register for classes. And this is something that must be done with the school counselor because signatures are required. And additionally, calculations for maximum credits, which was mentioned in the last presentation, has to be completed by the school counselor. So this is not required to submit the form that I referenced, but this will need to be complete prior to students registering for classes. So we're going to open it up to questions here shortly. I just wanted to include a slide here for the school counselor student assignments based on last name. And so you can see we have the school counselor list here. Mrs. Himmel is out on long-term leave, and so Mrs. Lau is going to be covering for her in her absence. So feel free to reach out to school counselors or myself. We're going to run through some questions here. Mrs. Monig is going to help me as we work through these questions. But if your question doesn't get answered, or if you have follow-up or more specific individualized questions that aren't necessarily appropriate for the good of the group, then please reach out individually and we'd be happy to help with your individual needs as well.
Okay, are you ready for the first question?
I'm ready, yes, thank you.
Okay, so question is, if my son was accepted to Columbus State last year, what steps will he need to take if he already has a Cougar ID? Do you want me to answer it, Mr. Bates?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, and then I'll grab the next one as soon as I can.
Okay, so if your son was already accepted and has a Cougar ID, it just kind of depends on if he's taking a class at Gahanna, so a course that we offer, or a course at Columbus State. And when you complete the Google form, all those forms will be on there. If he's taking a class at Columbus State, then all he needs to do is complete the registration form. If he's taking a class at Gahanna, all he has to, in addition to the intent form, sorry. So the intent form always. If he's taking a class at Columbus State, then he just needs to do the registration form in addition to that intent form. If it's a class at the high school, then he just needs to do the intent form and then make sure he completes the Google form so we know which course at the high school to schedule him for. And then that should be all.
Thank you. And one thing that I did not mention, or that I failed to mention, was oftentimes our courses fill up, especially in the high school, and so we have wait lists. So what this form will allow us to do is to operate more on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner that students get all this information submitted and actually submit their form will allow us to better assign students to courses and allow them to register for courses based on that first come, first served basis. I see a question here asking, will Gahanna students that attend Eastland Fairfield Career Center complete the Gahanna process and forms? So it's important that the students complete the forms based on their home school. So they're going to need to work with their home school counselor. If a student is a Gahanna Lincoln High School student who's also at the Career Center, Mrs. Monning, you can jump in here too, but Eastland Fairfield should be able to work with that student as they enroll, but they will need to work with their school counselor in Gahanna to make sure that the max credits are appropriate as well.
Yep. Okay, next question. So in relation to that question, what if a parent doesn't know if their student is officially going to the Career Center yet? So these Columbus State courses or Ohio State, the College Credit Plus classes don't have to be scheduled right now. So if you're looking at taking a class in fall, you really have a good amount of time before you actually have to register. You will definitely know whether or not your student is going to the Career Center before the registration deadline. Registration for fall does open up, I think in February or March, sometime this spring, but you have until pretty much a couple of days before the classes actually start, although you want to register sooner so you don't get, so the classes don't fill up.
I had a couple of questions. One was direct to me, and then another one a little later on. Where do we get the forms again? So all of the forms will be linked onto the form itself, but each of the individual forms that I mentioned, the intent to participate, permission slip, the questionnaire, all of those will also be posted separately on the academics webpage, the Gahanna Lincoln High School academics webpage, as well as the Gahanna Lincoln School Counselors webpage. So as well as all the meeting links and all of the scheduling information, this will all be posted in both of those places.
Okay, what about scheduling that is due this week? We would ask that you schedule as if you are not taking a CCP class just for now so that we can get those course requests in. Those course requests help us build our master schedule. So an example, if you have, if your son or daughter wants to take the College Credit Plus political science class that is federal government, then we would ask the student to just go ahead and register for the high school version of government. And then once we have that student registered and ready to go, then we will swap those classes out.
Another question here, can a student take all of their senior year classes at CCP or through CCP? The answer is yes, that is an option. In order for a student to remain a full-time student, as we report to the state, students should take 5 classes. So that would be the equivalent of 15 hours is what would be recommended for state reporting. But we do have several students who complete all their graduation requirements early and or are using CCP classes to count for both the high school graduation credit as well as college credit. So yes, it is possible for students to take only CCP classes for most of their junior year and or all of their senior year.
Okay, Mr. Bates, did you answer the question about are there any other forms that are not on the Google form?
I did not know.
Okay, so it depends on the college that you want to take the College Credit Plus course through. If you have to complete their forms that they require, and you'll determine whether or not there's additional forms just based on the application process. But as far as Columbus State goes, we have all of those on the Google form. So it kind of depends, but your school counselor can work with you to make sure you're getting all of the forms you need, depending on the college.
So again, more questions about the forms as well as this presentation. So the recording of this presentation, in addition to the forms, as well as the first hour presentation with our college and university partners, all of those links will be found again, both on the academics webpage, on Gahanna-Lincoln High School's webpage, as well as the school counseling webpage. So if you go to the Gahanna-Lincoln webpage and just scroll down, you should see the academics webpage there. If you are having any difficulty finding any of the forms, any of the information, please reach out to me or your son or daughter's school counselor, and we'll be happy to direct you in the right location.
Okay. Next question is pretty specific. A parent has a 7th grader at Middle School East. Do these classes count as high school classes? Still unsure about how College Credit Plus applies to 7th and 8th graders. So if your student is in 7th or 8th grade and they meet the qualifications through, like let's say they want to do Columbus State and they meet the requirements through a placement test or using an ACT or an SAT score, and they take a college course in 7th or 8th grade, those are still college courses and you earn the high school credit as well. So we will put that on the student's transcript. And it'll show like the 7th or 8th grade year, but that college level course will be there and they will earn college credit for that class.
I see a question about which colleges offer which courses. Mrs. Money, did you address that one?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, and then I'll also sort of give a little bit more background on that. So it's really important to work with your school counselor to look at which courses colleges offer through the CCP program. Almost every college will offer at least a Comp 1 and Comp 2 as an option, but each college should indicate on their website which courses are eligible for CCP, as well as any prerequisites for the course. It's important to note that each college is a little unique in what they require, both to enroll and register, as well as to be accepted into the college. So it's going to be really important to work very closely with both your school counselor and the college advisor, just because of the slight differences. As part of that, parents, if you are hoping to also engage or have a conversation with anybody at the college level, that FERPA form, the consent form, is going to be imperative. Each year we run into situations where parents are not able to communicate with either advisors or professors because they don't have that form completed. At the high school, we have no access to grades whatsoever. That's all handled by the college. We don't get quarter grades. We only get the end result grades. So we don't have any availability or options to track or to look to fill in parents about how students are doing. So that's going to be really important to complete that form if you do wish to reach out to college partners, advisors, or professors, because they simply will not speak to parents or guardians without that on file.
Okay, how does a student know whether to take an AP or CCP class? That's a great question. And I would encourage the student to talk to the school counselor, because we can really sit down, have a thorough conversation, find out what the student's goals are after high school. Just a quick general example would be advanced placement classes are offered really throughout the United States and throughout the world. So a college is very familiar with all AP courses and the rigor and what each course entails. So they can kind of compare a student from Ohio with a student from Texas who took AP US history. They kind of know what both of those students took, so the grades they can compare. College Credit Plus is a little different because that's within Ohio. And so through College Credit Plus, all Ohio public universities are required to take the credit, but not necessarily private or out of state. So it's a really good question. But again, I would just encourage the student to talk to the school counselor so they could really look at the student's goals and see which would be the best fit, or even a combination of both.
Next question. Next question. My daughter is changing school districts next school year, but wants to participate in the program. Can she still apply through Gehanna? If so, how would that work? So if it's for an upcoming school year, I would reach directly out to the school which your daughter is going to be moving into, because each high school has requirements and deadlines outside of that April 1st intent to participate, which is denoted through state legislation. So I would reach out to the school in which your daughter is going to be participating next year to find out what process they use. If your son or daughter, if your daughter plans on taking classes at Columbus State, she can still apply through Columbus State and get all of that out of the way, because regardless of which school district you're in, the Cougar ID, which is your identifying information through Columbus State, will follow your daughter. So I would say it depends on the college. You could, still start the application process because that'll follow, but to make sure that you're, signing up for classes that may be embedded classes, or the classes that are offered at the high school. Not every high school offers this, allowing students to take classes at their home school. Again, that largely depends on the teacher in the building, their past academic performance, as well as their diplomas. So that's going to be something that you're going to need to work with the school to determine, which classes are a best fit. So it's sort of twofold. I would check with the school that your daughter's moving into, but I would also apply to the college if she's interested in taking coursework.
Okay, next question. Can this affect my after school activities? So that really just depends on how you schedule your CCP course. If you're taking a class on campus, then depending on what time you schedule the course, then yes, it would affect your after school activities. If you're taking an online class, you have to be careful about what type of online class you schedule. They have live online classes, and a live online class is where you are expected to be online participating in a session, an online session, or there's fully online, which would be at your own pace. So if it's fully online, it wouldn't affect your after school activities, with the exception of being able to get the work done. So you would probably have to have time after school to complete the College Credit Plus course, but it wouldn't affect activities because you would be able to make your own schedule.
The next question, I keep being told by my son that CCP classes aren't accepted at out-of-state colleges. What is the best way to find out if a course is accepted at an out-of-state college? Websites, or do we need to call the college individually? I would recommend that you call the college specifically just to verify. Make sure that you speak with an advisor, admissions advisor, who is going to be able to answer that question. Make sure that you obtain the name of the person with whom you're speaking, so that you can reach back out if there are additional questions or follow-up questions. Out of state and accepting of credits for the entry-level classes, it's very common. For more specific classes, or as they pertain to specific majors, that largely relies on the college. So to be on the safe side, we always encourage students and parents to speak directly to the college at which they're planning to attend.
Okay, if I had already turned in the intent form last year, will I need to turn it in again this year? The answer is yes. So the intent form has to be completed every year. Some of the other forms you only have to complete once throughout high school, but some of them do need to be completed each year, and the intent form is one of them.
A couple of questions here. One was a direct to me. Will these also be on our grade level Google Classrooms? Yes, we plan to put them on grade level Google Classrooms as well. If you don't see them there, again, please reach out to your school counselor. Are there any physical education classes in the CCP coursework? CCP and physical education is not one that the state has allowed for. So physical education classes as they align to CCP coursework are not applicable.
Okay, for the intent to participate form, it is the outdated version, but you would just use it as if it is the updated version until we get the current one. So yes, put the grade level that you will take next year on the form, please.
Next question, just clarifying CCP credit counts towards high school credits as well, correct? Yes, the answer is yes to that. So example Comp 1, which is ENGL 1100, that class could count as a high school, one of your 4 high school English credits, and it will also count as a Composition 1 course at the college level. And this is similar for every course. If you take the CCP chemistry course, that counts as a chemistry course at the high school level and also at the college. These courses are weighted the same as AP, so it will be afforded that benefit as well.
Okay, does a student need to have an ACT/SAT score to apply for CCP courses taught at Gahanna, or will a 3.0 GPA be accepted in place of the test score? It just depends on the course. So the 3.0 GPA gets you into CCP in general. And then there are certain courses that you only need to have that 3.0 GPA. So our Composition 1, our Composition 2, both of our government or poli-sci courses. But if a student wants to take personal finance, they do need to take the placement test or have an ACT or SAT score because they have to meet the math requirement. So it kind of just depends on which course they want to take.
Next question, is there a list of CCP classes taught on site at GLHS? Yes, the list is on the form. So when you get into, I think, page 2 or 3, it'll ask you if you're interested in any of the embedded or the on-site courses. They're also listed in our program of studies. But it's important to note that the classes taught on site depend on student requests. So if we do not obtain enough student requests, we do not run a class. So that an example of that would be the supply chain management a couple of years ago that ran. However, the last year we didn't have enough student interest, so that wasn't offered. So again, it largely depends on student requests through the scheduling process.
Okay, next question is about the Google Form for CCP. We will put that on the academics page soon. It will also be on the grade level Google Classroom soon. And if you can't find it, just email your school counselor and we'll get it to you.
Next question, my son is a senior and I wanted to know if he can take the CCP courses now. Yes, however, at this point, today was the first day of classes for Columbus State. So if your son has a Cougar ID, has already applied, again, that takes typically 2 to 3 days. We could look at courses to see if any are open. We'd have to then email the professor. That's Columbus State's policy, since the courses have already started. There are 8-week term classes. So depending on what his schedule looks like, Columbus State, I know specifically does offer 8-week term classes. So again, they're condensed. And so the pace will be very quick, but that is an option for students to take, especially seniors. An important note is that any courses taken through CCP, the calendar year begins June 1st. So when we calculate these max credits, or when you're looking at what students can take in a school year, all coursework starting around, or whenever grades are reported to us after that June 1st. So summer classes, for example, at Columbus State, a senior couldn't take them, a current senior couldn't, a rising senior could. They would count toward the max credits of the 22-23 school year. So So if your son is interested in taking CCP courses now, um, I would find a time, and maybe he can meet with me tomorrow. I'm in the main office, or I know school counselors are very busy meeting with students, so that might not be an option. But my office again is in the main office. So if you want him to come and talk to me, I would do it ASAP because the options are very limited.
Okay, another one is more of a comment than a question. I'm a freshman at GLHS and having a hard time with this information. Again, if you ever have any questions or need clarifications, you can always make an appointment with your school counselor. Yes, this week we are out of the office because we're meeting with students to double check course requests, but anytime after this week, your school counselor can help you understand this information.
A question about CCP interfering with the Mosaic program. That's a very specific question. So it really depends on the student. A student in the Mosaic program can take CCP classes, but again, we need to see what courses you're interested in taking, as well as taking enough or not taking so much that it doesn't interfere with your max credits. So that question needs to be addressed specifically with your school counselor.
Okay, are there any language classes the CCP courses offer? So it depends on the college and it depends on the language. Mr. Bates, you may be able to speak to this. In my experience, I have had students take world languages, but it's been a little bit of a different process because there was a in-person placement test that they had to take. And so there were some prerequisites as well. Mr. Bates, anything to add?
I haven't had any in the past couple of years with COVID. In the past, there has been that placement test. I know that the students I've had have taken them all in person too. I only can think of two students who that has applied to. One was a Spanish course, and another was American Sign Language course. So that's going to be very specific to the college, but we can work through that question with your son or daughter.
Another question about the forms. They will be available probably by the end of the week. And I'll post them on the Google Classrooms tomorrow, but I'm not sure how long it takes to update the academics page, Mr. Bates.
I'm planning to do it tomorrow as well.
Okay.
I do see a question about PSAT scores. PSAT scores will not count for the majority of classes, but I will say the majority of humanities, especially with the English and social studies courses, the GPA requirement is all that's required. I think with some of the higher math and science, the placement test is required. So, the PSAT score won't count, but the GPA will, and most of our classes take that GPA requirements. That's great. And thank you for the compliment.
Okay, do CCP classes count as advanced classes that are required to receive an honors diploma? So CCP classes are weighted similar to an AP course, so they're on a 5.0 scale. And then for an honors diploma, Mr. Bates, I can't think of a course that requires an advanced level course such as CCP. When we on the honors diploma say in advanced science, we just mean any science class after physical or biology. So that could be the case, and we would be happy to help you clarify that if you email your school counselor, right, Mr. Bates?
Yes, yep, absolutely. There's another question that was direct to me. How do I know if the class is online or in person? That is going to depend on the college again, but I know in working last week with a student, if a class is online, typically they use the code W somewhere in the course code title. So look for that W, and if it doesn't have a W, then it's not online, and that would be the in-person classes.
Okay, next question. What's the difference between taking a CCP Comp 1 class at GLHS and taking English 1100 at OSU? So our CCP Comp 1 course that is offered in the building at Gahanna is through Columbus State. So the course is going to have, maybe a similar curriculum, but it's a course of a different college. So you could probably look up like an example syllabus from each course. They are still both going to meet that same general requirement of a Comp 1 course, but one is taught through Columbus State or in partnership with Columbus State through our teachers at Gahanna, and the other one would be solely through Ohio State.
We had 2 questions here, both about world languages, international languages with Chinese and French offerings. These are very specific to the colleges. I will say that, again, I mentioned 2 students I worked with over the past 10 years that have taken courses through the International Language Department. And it's not an entry-level class. So students typically need to have at least some college coursework. A lot of prerequisite courses include a Comp 1 course. So for us through Columbus State would be the ENGL 1100. But that's very specific to colleges and the requirements around that. So if your son or daughter is interested in taking courses within the International Language Department, it's going to be important to work with the school counselor, and we can work with the college that your son or daughter is interested in taking the courses to get a more definitive answer. But that's not a typical course that I see students taking. Chinese and French, that's just not typical.
Okay, I'm a sophomore and want to take Comp 1 and Comp 2 my junior year. So in order to fill out the form and take Comp, do I have to know about, or do I have to know what college I'm going to? So if the question is asking which college you want to take your Comp course through, so whether it's through Columbus State, Ohio State, or another college, you don't have to know when you complete the intent form. So you could still complete that. If you're asking, do you need to know what college like down the road? No, because you could still benefit from taking a Comp course at the college level. If you're concerned about a college not taking that credit, like Mr. Bates said, it seems like with these first year courses at the college level, a lot of times the colleges do accept them, but you could spot check a couple colleges that you think you might like, if that's the question that you're asking. So you could still take it, still benefit from it, even if you end up going to an out-of-state college or private college that doesn't accept it, which I feel like that's unlikely, but we can't guarantee that the college would take it. Sorry.
That's all. Those are all the questions that I see. If we missed your question, or if you have a follow-up question, feel free to type it in here. We'll stay on for a few more minutes just to make sure. Again, the important takeaways from this would be to ensure that you complete your Google form as soon as possible with the information. It's never too early to apply, especially to Columbus State, and get your Cougar ID. Get those turned in so that if there is a wait list, you won't be on that wait list. Again, my office is in the main office. So if you have specific questions, come and talk to me. And I also will put all this information on the academics webpage tomorrow. So all of the information that I shared will be posted there, as well as a list of all of the forms that we've talked about, the several forms. So Adrian, that intent letter will be also on the academics webpage as well.
Okay, what GLHS courses do Comp 1 and Comp 2 satisfy? They could satisfy English 9, 10, 11, or 12. You need 4 credits of English to graduate, and your Comp courses, they earn you 1 high school credit and 3 college credits through Columbus State. So you could, swap it out for English 11 and then English 12, something like that.
Question about honors classes, the same as AP classes, or are they a lower level? So the honors classes are weighted at a 4.5 scale, and the AP and CCP classes are on a 5.0 scale. So they're not weighted the same. You're very welcome. I'm going to put in the chat my email address as well as my phone number. So if you have, specific questions and you'd like to ask, feel free to reach out directly to me.
Okay, we have a question. Who's the point of contact for the bioscience program and where do I find more information? So Kelly Lewis is the teacher in charge of bioscience. If you have questions, you can always stop into the school counseling office and talk to Dr. Nelson Slagle here on the slide or Mrs. Stallnecker. They are our two school counselors that work directly with the Career Center programs.
Josephine, all of the slides that I have access to and Mrs. Monning have access to, we'll be sure to post them. The presentation at 6:30 through the college partners, we don't have access to those slides, but we do have access to that video recording. So all of this will be posted on both of our websites as well.
Okay, question about the John Glenn High School internship program. You do earn college credit through it. The same enrollment process. So that's through Ohio State. And I do think, Mr. Bates, please correct me if I'm wrong. I do think there is a specific application for the John Glenn High School internship program. And through that, then you would complete the steps through Ohio State with the help of Ohio State to be enrolled in CCP so that you can earn that credit. So it's a little bit different process.
Yes, that is correct. It is a little bit different. And Ohio State is a little bit different too. So anybody interested in taking CCP through Ohio State, I would refer directly to their CCP website because they definitely have a different process than any of the other colleges we work with. And then I see a question, Blake, is there a place to a complete list of steps needed to enroll in CCP classes? That form that I keep referring to, that Google form that we're going to be posting, those are all of the steps you need. So I believe there are 4 different pages or slides within that Google form. If you complete all of the stuff within that, each of the steps, then you've completed everything. So that's the best way to see if you've completed everything you needed.
Okay, question, is it possible to take both Comp 1 and 2 junior year? Is it harder to get accepted to do both in 1 year rather than taking Comp 1 junior year and Comp 2 senior year? No, it's not harder. It's totally fine if you want to do Comp 1 and Comp 2 in the same year. Sometimes I just ask students to decide if they're going to do that, then in the senior year, are they going to still take an English or will they be finished with English, and just kind of keep their long-term plan in mind. But you could take Comp 1 and Comp 2 because when you get accepted to the College Credit Plus program, you're not necessarily getting accepted based on the class you want to take. You're just meeting the requirements. And so you could take Comp 1 and Comp 2.
I did see a question, are the requirements for CCP registration the same as AP? So CCP registration and the process is not the same as AP. So for CCP, you have to complete the steps in the form that we've outlined, or based on the college, it's follow that process. For AP courses, you have the opportunity just to sign up through your high school. The main difference is that with CCP coursework, they're college classes. So you're in them for a semester typically. Whatever grade you receive is the grade that gets transcribed both at the college and the high school level. So you automatically get that grade. For an AP class, your AP score on your exam at the end of the year is the only way in which you can earn credit. And again, you're going to want to reach out to the college that you're interested in taking or applying to and taking coursework through, because the AP classes and what colleges will accept based on scores for those AP tests vary as well. So a student could potentially not earn an AP credit if they don't score high enough, whereas with a CCP, that grade you earn will automatically give you the credit as long as you're passing. But then again, so will the GPA follow you as well.
Okay, I see the course listings that CCP Comp 1 and 2 are listed for year 12. So do you skip English 11 and take 2 in year 12? So I think that's just a suggested grade. As long as you meet the requirements, you can take the course. And if you want to map it out, you can work with your school counselor to figure out what's the best option for you. But you could take, more than 4 English classes if you wanted to, take English 9, 10, 11, and then Comp 1 and Comp 2 in the senior year. That's totally fine too.
Let's see, I just lost my spot. If wanting to do OSU for CCP, will the Google Form still need to be filled out? Just the first page. So it will allow you to complete just the first page for OSU. And you don't need to complete the remainder of the forms because they're not required for OSU. Not all of the forms are. So again, OSU is so specific that we just need to know if a student is interested in taking courses there. But you're going to work very closely with your school counselor and with OSU because their requirements are different.
And then the next question was, how do we reach Anna Locks? I've put her email in the chat for you. And if you're not getting a response, you can always call the school counselor office, just the general line 478-5508. I'll put that in the chat and just let them know that you've been trying to reach Mrs. Locks and haven't heard back. Sometimes our spam filters are super sensitive and they'll filter out emails that we were meant to get. The other thing is all school counselors are in the English classes double checking course requests this entire week. So it's going to be difficult for us to get emails returned in a timely manner. And I'll put Mr. Miller's email in the chat also. Sorry.
There's a question about obtaining an associate's degree during their tenure in high school, as is such for the STEM program. It is possible to earn an associate's degree during high school tenure. This is we're going to need to work closely with the college for which your son or daughter would be interested in taking classes, or which you might be interested in taking classes. That's something that is very specific, and there's a process as far as completing certain coursework to move from level 1 to level 2. So it is possible, but again, that's going to be something you're going to want to work closely with the school counselor and the college advisor to make sure that we're completing all of the steps correctly. Very welcome. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we're going to go ahead and end this. Oh, there we go. So the question is, are there online courses from universities such as Northwestern that qualify for AP and/or CCP coursework? So the CCP coursework is dictated through Ohio legislation. So it really is reliant on Ohio's universities. I'm not saying no to this. This is not a question that I've ever had, but it's something that I would be happy to look into, Kevin. So feel free to reach out directly to me and we can work through this together. However, I know that within the CCP framework, that is something that is directly aligned to Ohio's universities, colleges and universities. And again, I'm going to put my information in there for the people who might have missed it in the mass of questions above. You're very welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and end this. If there aren't any other questions, again, feel free to reach out to your son or daughter, or if you're a student, your school counselor, or to me, if you want to sit down and have a conversation, I'm happy to do so. I know this is a lot of information all at once. So, you know, after you've had a time to process or watch some of the videos, you're going to probably have other questions. So don't hesitate to reach out if there are any questions. We're happy to help however we can. You're very welcome. Yes, this will be posted as soon as we receive it back from our tech department. So hopefully tomorrow or Thursday it'll be posted along with all of the other forms that we've referenced throughout tonight. All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help however we can. Have a great night, and we will see you all soon.